Once again, welcome back to the program. ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਸੈਗਮੈਂਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਵਾਂਗੇ ਡਗ ਮਕਨਲੀ ਨਾਲ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਬੋਰਡ ਮੈਂਬਰ ਹਨ ਡੈਲਟਾ ਕਰਲਿੰਗ ਕਲੱਬ ਦੇ। ਕਰਲਿੰਗ ਹੈ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਉੱਤੇ ਡੈਲਟਾ ਕਰਲਿੰਗ ਕਲੱਬ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਸਾਊਥ ਏਸ਼ੀਅਨਸ ਤੇ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਉੱਤੇ ਇੰਡੋ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨਸ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਵੱਧ ਚੜ੍ਹ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ਾਮਿਲ ਕਰਾਉਣ। ਔਰ ਇਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਕੁਝ ਇਨਫੋਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ ਲੈਣੇ ਆ ਡਗ ਮਕਨਲੀ ਤੋਂ। Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Doug. How long you have been associated with curling and what is this sport curling all about?
Okay, well, I've curled since I was in high school, which was a long time ago, unfortunately. About 30 years I've curled, and I've been with the Delta Curling Club for 12 years.
Okay.
Curling is a sport that you can do from a young age right through until you're in your 70s, and some people at our club are even in their 80s. So it's a lifelong sport to learn. It's a sport that is popular across Canada. It was originated in Scotland, but Canada kind of adopted it as their sport. And certainly with the climate in Canada, for the most part, it became a great winter sport.
Right.
So, you know, most people have probably seen some of it on TV.
Oh yes, only during the Olympics. You know, mostly we saw, and especially when we won the gold medal.
Yes.
So people were a lot, aware about this sport.
Yeah, the Olympics have definitely created a lot of extra interest in the curling. There's curling now on a competitive level, which gets covered by a lot of sports television, pretty much. You know, most weekends now, and yeah, it's gaining in popularity. It's been around for a long time, but at that Olympic level, I think it has brought a lot of new curlers into the sport and a lot of new interest into the sport.
But generally what we find is when we see the curlers playing, it's more of attention, you're focused on the ball. I won't say the ball, what do you call it?
It's the curling is a game that's done on ice, of course.
Right.
And there's 4 players per team. Each player throws 2 what they call rocks, curling rocks.
Okay.
And the rocks glide across the ice.
Right.
And you're shooting for targets down at the other side of the ice, which is some rings that are painted on the ice.
Right.
And the idea is to get the rocks into the rings, and there's a scoring system that takes place. So you're trying to get your rocks as close to the center as you can. That's kind of a general overview of how it works. So yeah, it's a team sport.
Right.
And the rocks are thrown what they call out of the hack, which is at one end, and there's what they call the skip, who is sort of running the strategy at the other end. He's the one that tells you where he wants the rocks to go. So he's the one that's responsible for deciding the strategy of the game.
So one thing which is quite associated with the sport is, which we have seen on the television sets, is that there's a player who is in front of that curling rock, what you're saying.
Right.
And they're, kind of sweeping and
Yes,
clubbing.
yes.
What is that?
The sweeping affects the rock because when you throw a rock down the ice from one end to the other, you put a little bit of a spin on it. And when you put a little bit of a spin on it, it starts to curl.
Right.
So I guess the name curling. Anyway, the sweeping helps control how much curl you want out of it.
Okay.
So if you want it to curl less to hit another rock, then you maybe put the sweepers, tell them to sweep. So they're actually affecting the line of the rock going from one end to the other. So it's a very important part of the game, particularly when you get into the competitive level.
Right.
The sweepers can really make a difference on a rock. They can also affect how far the rock curls.
Okay. So Delta Curling Club, since when has it been in inception, and especially how much awareness have you been able to create amongst the youngsters? Are you able to attract them to this game?
Yeah, you know what? It's been a sport that is starting to attract more and more of the youngsters, and I really think that a lot of that is because of the exposure it's getting on television and, like you say, through the Olympics and stuff. And it is a growing sport, and it is becoming a very big a participation sport. I think it's got one of the biggest participations in the country as far as the sports go.
Okay. And now, as you have basic purpose of your coming over here is to invite the South Asians, and they also should come and participate, and especially the children. So when we talk about the children as such, how much time involvement is there? Is it an expensive game like when we say about ice hockey? So tell us a little bit about that.
It's far less expensive than ice hockey, and it requires far less equipment.
Right.
The basic equipment is there are shoes and a curling broom, which are pretty much it. It's a very inexpensive sport to get into, and particularly if you're starting, you don't even necessarily need the shoes. You can get shoes. You can doctor up your shoes a little bit and get them to work as one shoe is a slider and one shoe is a gripper to help you slide across the ice.
Okay.
So yeah, it's very much inviting in that way. What we're trying to accomplish at the curling club is obviously we like to bring more people into the sport, more people into the game to enjoy, and so rather than we're offering out a lesson upcoming in March, but other than that, we'd like to offer a shorter league. Generally, a league will run from September through March, but we know sometimes that's a big commitment for new curlers. So we're offering a short 6-week league, and it's more of an introductory league for new curlers. There'll be coaches there to help explain the game, help with the instruction, and it's very reasonable.
So another thing was the time commitment. One game is about an hour or so?
One game would take you approximately 2 hours.
2 hours,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And what are the advantages which you would like to share with us for curlers? Like why is this sport recommended?
Well, for one thing, it's a lot of fun. I mean, the game is a great sport in many ways. It promotes physical fitness. It gets you out on the ice. The sweeping part that we talked about is actually it takes a lot of cardiovascular ability, and it's quite intense, and it's a team sport, which makes it fun.
Right.
Once you get involved in it, they have tournaments around the city, and it's fun to travel with your team and play in the tournaments. And it's a sport, if you learn it once, you can play it for the rest of your life.
And finally, for if anybody wants this free lesson, where they can contact you, and when is this lesson going to be held?
We are going to have a lesson on March 15th between 4 and 5 p.m. There'll be certified Curl BC coaches there.
Right.
So that 4 to 5 will be followed by a game, a 1-hour game, just to try it, to see what it's like from 5 to 6 o'clock. And all you have to do is bring a clean pair of running shoes.
Right.
And it's at the Delta Curling Club in North Delta.
Right.
And if you would be interested, you can go on the webpage to register, or you can call the curling club. Our club manager, she's fantastic. Her name's Laverne, and she's very welcoming, and she takes care of all the details. And
so where can they call the Laverne?
Laverne, number is 604-594-2323. And we'd be excited to open up an opportunity for some new curlers to come in.
Thank you, Doug. It was a pleasure talking to you and knowing more about this sport. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
तो जो ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਉਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਡਗ ਮੈਕਕਿਨਲੀ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ ਕਰਲਿੰਗ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਹੈਗੀ ਬੜੀ ਪੁਰਾਣੀ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ। ਸਕਾਟਲੈਂਡ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋਈ ਸੀ, ਹੁਣ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਇਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਪ੍ਰਚਲਿਤ ਹੋ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ। ਸਾਊਥ ਏਸ਼ੀਅਨ ਭਾਈਚਾਰੇ ਦੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਤੇ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਹੀ ਇਹ ਨਿਮੰਤਰਣ ਦੇਣ ਆਏ ਨੇ ਕਿ 15 ਮਾਰਚ ਨੂੰ ਜੇਕਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੂੰ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਾਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਤੇ ਪਰ ਦੇਖਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਕਿ ਵਾਟ ਇਜ਼ ਕਰਲਿੰਗ ਆਲ ਅਬਾਊਟ, ਉਸ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਸੰਪਰਕ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਤੇ ਮੁਫਤ ਲੈਸਨ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਪਣਾ ਮਨ ਬਣਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ ਕਿ ਕੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਪੋਰਟ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪਣੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਨੂੰ ਪਾਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਾਉਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ।